Howdy, folks, and welcome to Dungeon Diving, where I create a map to be used in tabletop role playing games, but also just as a source for inspiration for storytelling in whatever medium. And while I do this, I'll be talking about different concepts related to what I'm doing, and glad to have you all along for the ride. You can always request a comment for me to talk about, discuss in the comments section. Uh, just please, delightful dungeon diving. I keep most content kid friendly, so please keep that in mind. Be kind, and please go check out delightfuldungeondiving.com, where I run a business teaching kids how to play tabletop role playing games as well as running campaigns for them. Some of these groups have been going for years. If there's enough clamoring, and enthusiasm for some games run for adults, to be taught to adults and run for adults, I might consider adding that to the business model. So let me know. Anyways, today I had this idea for a little region, and it got some story ideas flowing and such. So I thought I'd open up Wonderdraft here and get some stuff down. Wonderdraft's a great application. I've also got Dungeon Draft, which is for smaller scale maps. You'll see I've made a few videos using Dungeon Draft. But for today, I'm gonna get started with doing some land masses up here, and we'll start with a smooth brush at the top. Now, as I make this map, this will be related to some of the story ideas I had for this, or at least the current one I'm working on. I want to talk about the concept, and all of this is relating to tabletop role playing games. But again, use this for stories, characterizations. There we go. Yeah, character ideas, villains, especially for today. I'm going to increase the roughness here to get us some good coastlines going. There we go. All right, there it is. Get that going. The topic I want to talk about today while I do this, and you're going to hear me jump back and forth between stuff that's on screen that I'm commenting on, as well as a topic I was discussing to start with. I want to talk about evil. Now, in my other career, and at heart, I will always be a teacher, a social studies teacher. And one thing I've always taught my kids is that evil, when describing people, is kind of useless to us and actually detrimental to making anything better. And I'll get into it, okay? The idea today for this map is a crossing between two land masses, a crossing made of an archipelago of extremely volatile volcanic islands. This archipelago is like the islands of smoke or mist, the shrouded isles, a place that is very dangerous. Now, as I make these maps, I'm not making this particular map to load into any sort of virtual tabletop to be used. It can just go in as a picture for people to take a look at. I'm not even sure if I'm scaling this one really correctly. Today is more about uh, inspiration and getting some stuff just splotched down. So we have this little bridgeway here, this crossing of islands between these two big land masses. And maybe there's something with this body of water. It's extremely dangerous. There's monsters. Maybe there's magical effects. You can use your imagination. I'm probably going to make this a more tropical region. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and paint some of this land while I get going here. It's been a while since I made a video like this, so forgive me if I'm a little sporadic all over the place. I'm trying to remember how I did everything. There we go. Get some land going. Back to evil. Okay. Also, side note, I'm going to make this one a little more tropical region. Feel free, take this idea, run with it. You can make this frozen islands in a northern or southern clime. If you're sci-fi, do something real fun with it. The reason these islands exist like this could be from magical effects, what have you. Just run with it, right? Now, I am going to change up the two bodies, though. There we go. Uh, evil. And what I meant by labeling people as evil is somewhat useless. We're going to divide this between two big concepts, right? Story, fiction, and real life, real world. Now, with story and fiction, having evil actions, um, occur is a very human thing. We can label actions as evil. Now, we can say that this is a thing. Maybe when we say evil, maybe we mean the person who did it. Maybe we mean the forces of the universe that we don't understand. Maybe we mean a deity. Maybe we mean a body, a government, that is responsible for this, or a concept, a religion, um, a movement. And we say this action happened and it's evil because blank, right? And let's populate the waters here with some fun little monsters. There we go. These symbols, yeah, why not? Just make it very clear that this place is super dangerous. Um, there we go. Get some ships going. And in fiction, to make a villain, which a lot of this talk today is going to be geared towards villainy and bad guys in games and stories, how to flesh them out a bit more. Did I already get one? No, let's get this guy. Oh, that's a fun looking dude. Let's get him right on the outskirts. Yeah. All right. In stories and fiction, when you have an evil character, if they're just evil and all they want is power, yeah, it's okay to have villains that aren't super complex. They're just an obstacle for the heroes to go on their journey. That's okay to do that, and there's interesting ways to do that. But sometimes it can feel hollow if there's no thought to what does this villain want um, beyond conquest? What do they want to do with conquest? Even a character like the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Thanos, right? The big, big, big bad that they built towards. He had a very specific purpose and a reason why. And you can say it's a smart reason, it's a dumb reason, whatever. It's a reason. And that's important. He has a reason and he has a plan for afterwards. He's, gonna go retire. What was it? Watch the sun set on a grateful universe, right? We even get to see a little bit of that. I'm gonna put this here. Does this merge or go behind well? Oh, yes, it does. Okay. So I'm just making a little island here with maybe this is a lighthouse, maybe it's a monastery, or maybe it's filled with people dedicated to the lighthouse and the idea of like, hey, you've begun the crossing. Here is a waypoint for you to rest and get, respite and succor, Uh, I'm throwing a lot of stuff just down on this map today. Instead of making a super cohesive encounter type map, I'm trying to just get a bunch of different story ideas on here. I'm sure I won't even finish this thing today. No idea how long this video is going to end up being. uh, so with story and fiction, you're doing a villain, an evil figure, and if you peel back the layers of that evil a little bit and try to figure out why they became the way they did, it does make them relatable. In fiction, it's very easy to take that and then run with, well, if they're relatable, could we see where the heroes may have gone, could possibly go wrong and become this too? Let's do a little settlement here on this big island. Um, Little township of sorts. Uh, And in some cases, it's very easy to. I feel like this was kind of the norm for a while in fiction, was making villains kind of romantic in a sense, like, oh, how tragic and dramatic this thing that happened to this person and caused them to be the way they were, et cetera, et cetera. And that's fine in stories and fictions. It makes for compelling villains, but real life doesn't work that way. Yes, have reasons they became how they were. Uh, Huge historical figures that you may consider evil. There were things that made them that way. And you can empathize and sympathize with some of these figures, but not all. They did have choices, and sometimes most cases, they have contemporaries who went through similar things. I'm trying to find a specific symbol over here. Went through similar things in similar circumstances, but made different choices. But labeling someone, a central figure who's done horrific, horrific things as, ooh, that's fun, let's throw that in there, as just straight up evil, it kind of lets them off the hook, right? And it lets everybody else off the hook. They did those things because they were evil. That's why they did those things. What does evil mean? What do you mean they were evil? Were they born that way? Or did they turn that way? And well, how did they turn that way? What is this exactly? Ooh, you know what? I'm going to strike this actually on this island as a feature because it kind of, other than a cove, it also kind of looks like it could be the bones of something or some magma. So I'm gonna do that there, and I'm gonna actually throw a volcano up here. There we go. I'm actually gonna throw a couple of volcanoes. Again, this is not a super um, beautiful map. This is more to get some ideas, right? And we want to get some clouds going up here. In fact, I believe there I have some cloud symbols. I'll have to finish painting that too. Real historical figures, labeling them as evil lets everybody else off the hook. Says, well, you would never do something like this because you're not evil. Well, sure, but do you have anything in common with this historical figure? Is it possible you could have done these things? And the answer is usually yes, right? That these people are either broken people or there are circumstances that led them to these whatever level of power they had and how they used that power to do terrible things. The big point of trying to move away from the term evil is usually the motivation behind what people who've done awful things want. It's often mundane. Um, People who want power, who want nothing but power, right? Well, why do they want that power? What is it that they're trying to achieve? Is it a well, shipwreck here? Is it simply a void within them that they're trying to fill, and power lets them do that? Are they seeking control for some reason? Here's what I was looking for. I was looking for some clouds, and I'm gonna put these guys placement density. Let's see how opaque are those. Those are pretty opaque, and we're gonna color these too a little bit. But I'm gonna fill this area with clouds so that we see that the focus here is the islands and the clouds they're being colored by what's closest land mass wise. There we go. So in fiction and stories, moving away from simple descriptors as evil lets you not fully humanize and romanticize the villain, but rather focus on what is the actual impetus behind their actions. What are you actually trying to commentate on with this central figure? Now, where is my paint? There's a paintbrush. All right, cool, 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 cool. We're gonna do kind of smoky color over here. So I'm just gonna look for something that looks a little darker, a little gray. Yeah, that works. And we'll switch it up a little bit there. Um, yeah, perfect. So what is the actual concept you are trying to convey through this villain? What is it that they want? What is it that led them where they are? Instead of, well, they're just evil. They like hurting people. People don't like hurting people. That's not how humans really work. It's how broken humans work. Uh, so if you're creating a fantasy or sci-fi, some non-human figure, villain, that likes hurting people, well, are they broken or is that how they're made? And if that's how they're made, is there any other kind of, I mean, how are we comparing and contrasting them to other species? Right. And that's a dicey proposition in itself. I'm going to go back to symbols here a little bit so I can alter up, give maybe a few more features here. I have some ideas about this place that I'm going to run through in just a second. And it's related to evil, actually, or this concept we're talking about. Oh yeah, we want a some sort of bastion or city or there we go, fortification down here. Yeah, I like that. And we'll do a similar one. Um, Big Island, Big Island. We'll do a similar one right here. So I'm going to use it for instance here. I made a video earlier today. Another series of videos I do is called Dicey Philosophy, and that's when I am out doing something like mountain biking, or you know what? Let's do a big castle right there over these people. Yeah, why not? That is when I am doing dangerous activities such as mountain biking, and I'm talking about topics like this. And I did one today on the hypocrisy of Thomas Jefferson. And that's a great inspiration for villainy because hypocrisy. Why did Jefferson do the things he did and live the life he did? We can get into it, and I do in that video. But the takeaway was more, what does it say about him? What his life was. And it kind of just boils down to he was a massive, horrific hypocrite. Uh, Wanted to be perceived and seen as doing and believing in one thing while absolutely doing the opposite in reality. And we have record of all of this. This is not super debatable, okay? By his own words, Jefferson said something, I'm going to paraphrase here, but essentially something along the lines of, man, if God does exist, we are all screwed by what we have done. And he was talking specifically about slavery. So, hypocrisy is a great takeaway from a figure like Jefferson. Now we can take a villain and infuse them with the idea of hypocrisy. That makes them interesting. Doesn't necessarily make them romantic. Okay, we're not talking about taking a figure and saying, "Oh, but for this, for the grace of this, they could have been the hero." Not necessarily, but by seeing an instinct, a concept, a thing that you yourself as a human might do and feel, which of course you do. You are of course hypocritical about different things in your life. I am sure to different scales than someone like Thomas Jefferson, but that's something you can recognize in someone in yourself. And recognizing something from the villain in yourself is powerful. Um, I'm putting a bunch of stuff because on this map because it's just giving me some ideas. Again, it's not really thematically merging. I'm using a lot of tokens from different places. This is not going to be a super aesthetically pleasing map so much as it is a story idea generator. Um, and I'm gonna get a little goofy with it here in a bit. There's a lot of different tokens here. I'm just trying to use ones that help my mind move a little bit here. So again, I mentioned the dichotomy between story and fiction and real life because I want to make sure people don't think that I want to steer away from the idea of romanticizing your villains. It's not about romanticizing them. It's about finding a human connection so you can recognize this horrible stuff in yourself, and that makes it hit harder. I am going to put this on a hillside there. I like that. I like actually like those hills better, but again, oh, these are a little more dramatic like that. Okay. Those are cool. Let's do that somewhere too. Let's put that right over there. This was an old fort. Maybe we'll there we go. We'll flip that so it looks like it's raised up. I like that. There's so much versatility you can do with these maps, with things like Wonderdraft and all these tokens and such. If you're seeing this, a lot of these packs I acquired for free from Cartography Assets, I believe, and then a lot of them I also purchased to support artists who made them. Uh, there we go. Again, not about romanticizing villains, but relatable and romanticizing are two different things. Making a villain relatable makes them interesting. Makes the closer your villain is to, I'm gonna retcon that a little bit. I'm gonna say that there you go. Let's brighten that up a little bit. If you can have your villain, there we go. I think I'm on it. I think I'm on it. For a hero that is meant to be um, a vehicle for the reader, for the audience, um, or in a tabletop game, obviously the hero is a vehicle for the player to explore the story, right? Let's actually back that guy up a little bit. There we go. I don't know why that bugged me, but it did. I'm going to make a little more shanty-ish type places over here as a contrast. There we go. Uh, the hero on a scale tends to be more in the middle of things. Super relatable, while at both times being aspirational and having flaws that a person can very much relate to. The villain, on the other hand, if you want to make them super dynamic, you need to have the villainy aspect of them be far on the scale of relatability, far away, unrelatable. The things they are doing shock and appall you, things that you would never, of course, do yourself. But the human side of that villain, and I say human no matter what the species is, maybe they're a physical monster, maybe they're an alien, what have you, that side of them, the human side of them, needs to be relatable on the other side. Something about them, some mundane bit of their personality that is has been perverted and twisted and taken to that far extreme. But you recognize that bit. Maybe it's hypocrisy, maybe it's greed, maybe it's sloth. Maybe it's fear. That's always a great one to go to. Maybe it's because when you go to fear, it can be fear about a specific thing. Sorry, I'll get back to actual map making here in a second. I like the idea of having a little outpost here that is very clearly different than these ones over here, and maybe it exists. Let's do just basic stonework. That's fine. Maybe it exists. In opposition to what's over there. Realizing again, I scaled all of this incorrectly, but that's okay. There we go. So finding that more human element on one end of the relatability scale, and then their actions, their actual consequences being far over here. The hero being in the middle lets you go either way with it. Really amazing highs of their actions and very, very relatable origins on the other end of the scale. The villain, very, very relatable things you recognize in yourself, even if you don't want to, and then taken to the other extreme. And you can see where that fear might take you, where the anger might take you, where greed, hypocrisy, uh, ignorance, right? That's how you take these interesting concepts and inject them into your villains using historical figures like I mentioned Jefferson over there a second ago. Sorry, again, I'll get back to map making. Fine. I like the idea that stuff on this side is kind of ruinous, but maybe there is a reason people go this direction. We'll talk full in detail about this map and these ideas in just a bit. Ooh, I like there being like maybe it's a old witch's hut here. Oh, and you know that reminds me what I was going to say earlier. Comes to real human figures. You need to remember that however monstrous this figure, and I'm not going to name drop them, I know exactly who you're thinking of, and it's who I'm referring to, but there's numerous of them. However monstrous they might have been, uh, you need to remember that all of them were humans. They were all babies once. Not to say that they should be sympathetic, just to say they're not fictional. They're people. Look what people can do. And the witches thing reminded me of because I saw a quote. It was oof, quite sobering quote the other day about uh, the church never burned a single witch, just women. Obviously, in historical accuracy, there were men in there too. Et cetera, et cetera. But you get the picture, right? They never burned a single witch, just women. We have a tendency to final stop here. I think it should be very ominous. I like that. We have a tendency to mix fantasy and reality a lot when talking about history and forgetting that these are real people that lived. So I know I'm rambling a little bit here. I'm going all over the place, and this video is already long enough. But the point being, evil is too simple a concept to apply to figures, to characters, to people, versus labeling the actions themselves as evil works. And if you just ignore evil for a bit, it pushes you to try and think of some more interesting dynamics of the person. Uh, what was the motivation for their actions? Going off the top of my head without name dropping, but a few figures that I consider up in this tier right now. Um, Lovelessness, a perception that this person cannot be loved by other people, isolation and loneliness, um, pursuit of performance, pursuit, a competition, a competitive spirit that has gone all the way to the extreme. They just can't stop. They have to be the top. They have to be the top of whatever thing. And maybe they've even invented the things they have to be the top of. They've made it their own structure, right? Uh, let's see. Fame. Fame. Part of that is the love listing. Maybe people are looking for attention because it's something they crave, something they can't get. They can't form connections with people, so they look for shallow attention. There's an insatiableness to a lot of modern day figures that would be high on this tier, guilty of evil actions. And that's a deep well for you to pull from for ideas. So, I am going to get one more. Obviously, I've said this already. I'm kind of mix and matching some tokens here, but well, let's take a quick look at this map that I got so far. And the reason I was thinking of evil, originally my idea for this chain of islands, this crossing, is that it is controlled by criminal syndicates, disparate families of criminal organizations that all have different points of access for travelers to come into their island. They have different things they can offer travelers. Maybe this right side chain of islands here was primarily a group that pretty much just stuck to piratery and banditry, and they've just never really got the organizational structure part down. So a lot of stuff is in disrepair. This is on the edges of things, a bit more of the frontierish side of things. So maybe there are some mystical, magical elements in old ruins here from battles. Right in the middle, we have a successful family, a very successful family that has built up a powerful fortification for themselves. Maybe this housing, maybe it's kind of serfdom adjacent. We already mentioned this central little monastery lighthouse type place. Maybe it's a guild or an organization dedicated. That's bugging me a little bit. Let's move that over there so that they are not, there we go, overlapping. Maybe it's a monastery, organization guild that is dedicated to helping travelers come through, or maybe completely capitalist. They are looking to make a profit as they're the ones who own all the maps. um, I like the idea that over here on this frontier too, is maybe even more abandoned than the last one. And maybe this lighthouse, this place used to exist to keep watch on this particular volcano and maybe time, maybe clock and try to predict its eruptions. But maybe something happened. Maybe the gases. I'm thinking Avatar now, The Last Airbender, where, uh, spoilers if you haven't watched it, especially if you're young and you're watching this content and you haven't watched The Last Airbender yet, please do so. But slight spoiler, it involves the poisonous gases releasing from a volcano. Maybe that some awful tragedy befell this place. But it is important for adventurers or travelers to go here because there is knowledge locked up inside here. There's tomes, there's a library of notes about this volcano and possibly even the monsters in the area. Ooh, yeah, I like that. This place here. For some reason, maybe it's because I'm watching Percy Jackson at the moment too, and thinking Greek stuff, but it reminds me of like a figure like Polyphemus. Maybe there's a monstrous figure that calls this island home. Maybe they used to have worshipers or subjects around, and they even let those people build a harbor, or maybe they've made a deal with certain travelers to come through here and build harbors. Um, but there's also monsters nearby. Final fortification. Maybe this actually belongs to folks on the mainland who have established a little front here and have interactions with the criminal syndicates that run all these different islands. The idea that these different islands are home to different families is kind of cool to me. So I don't know. It's giving me a lot of different ideas, and it made me think of the concept of evil. Uh, is just a way of like, no, crime lords aren't evil. They do evil things, sure. But why are they crime lords? Why did they fall into that way of life? And what is it about their personalities that made them this way? All these criminal families, what is their background? And what can we take from each one? Is one greedy? Is one fearful? And why are they fearful? Are they religious maybe, or super insular and isolated, and they're like xenophobic of other peoples? uh Maybe they're one of these families is just super resistant to change, and they refuse to bow down to any of the powers here and have found their own way to exist outside the laws of any of these states or city states or nations, borders, etc. Maybe they're smugglers, and that's the way they survive. Who knows? Just doing things like this, especially with a software like Wonderdraft, I sometimes sketch things, and maybe I'll do one of these videos if people request it. Maybe I'll do a video focus on my hands. Maybe you don't like looking at my face too much, and it's just focused on my hands, drawing and sketching. I'm not great at it. I know folks who very much are. I'm not. So using a software like this is very helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'm coming to an end here. As always, these are my own personal opinions and philosophies and beliefs, and they're always changing. I used to tell my kids this all the time, and I'll tell my future students this as well. To me, smart and dumb are about pursuit of knowledge. Dumb people are people who know that there is knowledge out there that may contradict their own, and that their own knowledge is incomplete, and they know that knowledge exists out there in the world, but they refuse to go acquire it. They make the choice to not acquire that knowledge because it would be uncomfortable. It would make them face certain changes in their own reality and perceptions, and they just don't want to do that. And to me, that is what a dumb person is. Someone who's not curious about the world in the least. Smart people are people who are curious and who are conscious. They want to learn things and then reevaluate the things they've learned. To periodically go back and go, hey, was that the full information, or have any of my views changed, and why have they changed? And where am I getting my information from? Is it a varied enough sources, or is it too varied? Have I watered down the information I've taken in? Because you'll never be on concrete footing, just adaptable footing. And that's to me is what smart is. I try very hard to be smart about this stuff. Well, the dogs are telling me that this video is over. So thank you all for tuning in. Please check out delightfuldungeondiving.com. Pass it along to your friends that it might be relevant to. Like I said, if there's any desire for those classes for adults, I'd be glad to amend my business plan. Thank you all for tuning in. I'll be back with more videos soon.